Hey guys, and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you more spoilers and lore for Magic's upcoming set, our return to the city plane of Ravnica in Guilds of Ravnica. Today we reveal a massive player getting a new card, so I thought it would be fun to examine his lore leading into this new set, along with some of my personal theories I have for his development. Unlike Amara, who I covered last time, find a link to that video in the description below, this isn't a mere champion of a guild, but rather the Parun, the founder. This is the Firemind, the Dracogenius Niv-Mizzet Parun. His new card is a 5/5 flyer for 6 mana, a weird split of 3 red and 3 blue. His card cannot be countered. Whenever you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, you draw a card. First, can I just say how proud I am of Wizards of the Coast and Niv-Mizzet in general for their consistency. I mean, he's basically the same card every time with a few minor tweaks here and there. In general though, he's always a 5/5 flyer for 6, which can draw you cards and deal 1 damage for drawing said cards, again and again and again. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Not really the mantra for a genius and revolutionary thinker, but sure, why not? So what do I think about this new version of Niv-Mizzet? Well, it can't be countered, so that's new, but its cost is pretty insane. A triple cost to 2 different colors is really much more difficult to pull off, and that's pretty much the cost of this being decent against control matchups. I'm not sure it's worth. That cost alone makes this near impossible to realistically pull off in Limited, which is a shame. On top of that, the previous Mizzets allowed you to dictate when you draw the card, and while this one does trigger off you casting your own spells, which matters in a Spells Matter Izzet deck, it could come down to your opponents casting those instants and sorceries, and allowing them to decide when you draw a card and ultimately deal that 1 extra damage is kinda stinky. Now, you're still gonna deal that damage whenever you draw a card, so that's good, and that damage can target planeswalkers now, but still. Looking over everything and its previous cards, I just feel like its mana cost really hurts a lot. Of course I hate it in Limited, and you might be hard pressed to see it in Standard, except for maybe really hateful control matchups. So at the end of the day, sorry Niv, and please don't obliterate my brain. So now that I probably dropped about 1,000 subscribers by speaking out against Niv-Mizzet, let's dive into this dragon's lore. Let's see the history of the Parun Niv-Mizzet. So Niv-Mizzet has a long and complicated past on the plane of Ravnica. Little is known about his origins, but a lot is known of his personality and traits in recent stories. As his latest title suggests, Niv-Mizzet is the Parun of the Izzet League, basically the guild's founder. This goes back thousands and thousands of years, and it makes sense as Niv-Mizzet is the smartest, probably oldest mortal being on Ravnica. As a genius, it only makes sense that he was one to go on to found and sign onto the first guild pact, the Izzet, the main progressive scientists and thinkers of Ravnica. The Izzet are charged with inventing and building great achievements for the city. One of Niv-Mizzet's personal and most beneficial creations for Ravnica is a particular metal known as, well, of course, Mizzium, which is nearly indestructible yet malleable and shapeable. As a collection of powerful beings came together to sign the first guild pact, a powerful magical document forged by Azor, the founder of the Azorius, Niv-Mizzet represented his guild in the agreement. War threatened to destroy Ravnica, and Azor put in place restrictions to those aggressions to which all guilds, including Niv-Mizzet, agreed upon. After that, however, the dragon's influence in the Izzet faded as the guild's activities were taken up by others as their founder flew off to isolation. Thousands of years passed before he would be seen again. Niv-Mizzet made himself known once again as Ravnica fell into panic and war as the original guild pact was dissolved. As the guilds fought one another, gigantic monsters known as the Nephilim, the quote-unquote old gods of Ravnica, prior to the signing of the guild pact. These forces of nature left nothing but destruction in their wake, forcing Niv-Mizzet to fly down from his exile to help a goblin genius named Crixivix. Damn these Izzet names, dude. While Niv-Mizzet had been involved in guild matters before this point, he acted as an unseen force, relaying orders and granting promotions while in exile. He was actually the one who promoted Crixivix to Master Engineer, but here the Nephilim were beyond anything the Izzet could whip up, and it basically came down to Niv-Mizzet's immense size and strength rather than mind to solve the issue. The Goblin Engineer watched in awe as her guild's Parun swooped down and killed 2 of the old gods with his bare teeth and brawn, yet suffering an injury during the battle. Wounded, the prideful Niv-Mizzet flew off once again to heal, claiming he was bored with the conflict. But in reality, he was bruised, both in body and pride. After this dust settled, members of the Izzet believed Niv-Mizzet to be gone yet again, but as the guilds reconvened to sign another, less magical guild pact, the dragon Parun came back out of hiding to put his claw marks into the new accord, officially once again cementing the Izzet as a guild of this new pact, bound by faith rather than magic. This brings us full circle to the story of the Return to Ravnica block. Niv-Mizzet is firmly the guild leader of the Izzet, and many schemes and plans are set into motion. Now, however, a new upstart, a brilliant human mage by the name of Ral Zarek, serves as Niv-Mizzet's number 2 in the guild. Unbeknownst to the dragon, however, Ral is a planeswalker, a fact that he hides from his guild leader as a matter of tactic. Ral seeks to control the Izzet himself, surpassing his master, and being a planeswalker could be key in that. He technically knows more about the multiverse than this insanely smart Niv-Mizzet. While all the other guilds are basically killing themselves due to the manipulation of House Dimir, the Izzet begin an experiment, searching and examining a maze discovered by Niv-Mizzet deep beneath Ravnica. It is known as the Implicit Maze, something Jace steals from the dragon using telepathy for his own end. The Izzet, under the dragon's instructions, discover its inner workings and announce their grand project to the rest of the guilds. And quick side note, they only do this because all the guilds need to be involved in order to make it work. Basically, one guild could rule all of Ravnica, but it needs all the guilds to participate in order for it to work. In this, Niv-Mizzet crafted the perfect maze runner, a weird or elemental being named Melik. It would have been Ral Zarek to be the Izzet champion, but he failed on a few things and Niv-Mizzet could sense his ambition getting ahead of his actions. A little PO'd by this, Ral, who was leading the event's presentation, actually murdered Melik, leaving him the only runner left for the Izzet. Yeah, that didn't play well with Niv-Mizzet. Anyway, the race ends with all the runners fighting each other, and Azor's failsafe, blowing up Ravnica, was about to be enacted. Jace merged the guild's perspectives together and was awarded the powers of the Living Guild Pact, settling the conflict for good and restoring order to the guilds. Now Jace, a person of great interest to Niv and the Izzet, is the Living Guild Pact and the de facto ruler of Ravnica, but even more trouble brews. The Izzet are in turmoil as Nicol approaches. The young Ral Zarek has partnered with the invading dragon, certainly putting himself in a position to steal the Izzet from Niv-Mizzet's claws. The only question now is whether or not he'll survive the coming war. With Ral Zarek and Bolas working together, it's doubtful the dragon leader can survive. But who knows? He is rather clever after all. Still, a new Guilds of Ravnica card seems to set this theory into more of the realm of almost guaranteed. This is Expansion and Explosion, a double card featuring both of these characters. Both at instant speed and both needing to be played at the same time. Expansion, featuring Niv-Mizzet, is 2 mana, either blue or red, copy target instant or sorcery with converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets for that spell. And Explosion with Ral Zarek, for X, double blue and double red, it deals X damage to any target and target player draws X cards. Speaking on the card or cards first, this is a super interesting Izzet card. A cool effect on expansion for either mono red or blue, but super expensive for Explosion with a specific cost. If you go off on an Izzet spell deck, it could be fun to use, but outside of that, it may be difficult to actually use in practice, and especially in limited, yeah, forget about it, it's a dud rare. But the art, that's where we see this telling story come to a close. The foretold battle between guild leader and guild champion Ral Zarek coursing with the blessings of Nicol Bolas, the promise of power, and the guild leader, Niv-Mizzet, destined to fall. Anyway guys, that was the full story of Niv-Mizzet, the Parun, leader of the Izzet on Ravnica. As we head into Guilds of Ravnica, his title and fate are in question, but for now, these new cards reaffirm his stewardship as the smartest being on the plane. Aside from the invading Nicol Bolas, of course. Let me know what you guys think about Niv-Mizzet's newest card and his story, and what you think the lore holds for him in Guilds of Ravnica in the comment section below. Make sure if you enjoyed the video to throw it a like, share it across the multiverse, and of course subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest videos. You can also join the Vorthos army over on Patreon. You can get videos like this early, as well as signed cards and access to my Discord, all while supporting the videos you love. Find out more by checking the link in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time here on The Aether Hub.